It was just after 10 a.m. when Marcus Taylor pulled his sleek black sedan into a roadside stop off Interstate 95, about 35 miles east of Springfield, Ohio, a quiet town nestled between fields and forests. Dressed in a crisp navy suit, Marcus looked every bit the part of a man on his way to an important meeting. Beside him, a leather folder held documents for a policy discussion with the governor, set to begin at noon. Marcus had served as a respected judge for over 2 decades, known across the state for his calm presence and unwavering fairness. But none of that mattered when a white state patrol car rolled up behind him, sirens flashing. Officer Derek Marsh, eyes narrowed, saw only what he expected to see: a black man alone in a nice car parked at a rest area. Suspicious? Maybe, but not criminal. He radioed for backup, then stepped out of his vehicle before waiting for it. Marcus, sensing the approach, lowered his window and kept both hands visible on the steering wheel. "Good morning, officer," he said politely. "Is there a problem?" Marsh didn't respond right away. He studied Marcus like he was trying to solve a puzzle. "We got a report of a stolen vehicle matching this description near a gas station," he said flatly. "Mind stepping out?" Marcus blinked, not in fear, but confusion. "I wasn't aware of any such report," he replied. "I'm just taking a short break before heading into the city." He offered to show his registration, but Marsh ignored it. Instead, he took a step back, hand resting on his holstered gun. "Step out now," he barked, voice sharp. Marcus complied slowly, his tall frame composed. By the time backup arrived, Officer Lisa Monroe, the situation had already escalated. Marcus stood at the rear of his car, hands up, asking calmly what he was being accused of. Marsh ignored him, opened the car door without permission, and began rifling through the glove compartment. "I don't consent to a search," Marcus said clearly. That's all it took. "That's obstruction," Marsh snapped. Before Marcus could even respond, Marsh grabbed his arm, twisted it behind his back, and cuffed him. Monroe hesitated, but followed orders, securing the other wrist. Marcus didn't resist. His voice, quiet but firm, cut through the tension. "You're making a serious mistake." A few passers-by watched from a distance. One of them, a college student on vacation, raised her phone and started recording. Across the lot, an older man shook his head. "That man doesn't look like someone who stole anything." Inside the police station, hours passed. Marcus sat in silence, wrists red from cuffs, repeatedly asking to contact his office. No one listened. Officers glanced at him with suspicion, mistaking his calm for guilt. Some smirked. One muttered, "Thinks he's special." 2 hours later, Sergeant Pamela Grant entered the room. She paused when she heard Marcus ask again to make a call. "Has he been advised of his rights?" She asked no one in particular. A nearby officer answered, "Yes, ma'am." Obstruction and vehicle match. Grant walked over. "Sir, may I ask your name again?" "Marcus Taylor," he replied, "and I strongly recommend you check that name before this gets worse." Grant raised an eyebrow, then headed to a terminal. A few minutes later, her face changed. The screen showed a long list of credentials: academic honors, legal appointments, judicial certifications, and, finally, the title, Judge, 14th District Court, State of Ohio. She returned to the holding area, jaw tight. "You said you had a meeting in Springfield?" "Yes," Marcus replied, "at noon, invited by the governor for a justice reform roundtable." Grant exhaled. "Judge Taylor, I apologize. This should never have happened." Behind her, Marsh stiffened. "Wait, what do you mean, judge?" "You arrested a sitting state judge without cause," Grant said coldly. "You searched his car without a warrant. You denied him a phone call." Her voice sharpened. "Do you understand what you've done?" Silence filled the room. Marsh tried to speak, but nothing came. Monroe looked down, pale. By evening, the video had gone viral. A 27-second clip showed Marcus being cuffed while calmly asking why. Captioned, "Man arrested for being black in a suit," it spread rapidly across social media. Within hours, millions had seen it. News outlets picked it up by dawn. Civil rights leaders issued statements. Hashtags like #Justice for Marcus and #RestStop profiling trended. The governor's office confirmed Marcus's scheduled appearance. A statement followed. "We are reviewing the incident and remain committed to equity and justice across all state agencies." Protesters gathered outside the precinct the next morning. Signs read, "Judged before justice" and "Dignity in cuffs." What shocked people most wasn't just the arrest. It was Marcus's silence during it. He didn't yell. He didn't fight. He simply looked like a man who had seen this too many times before. Inside the station, the mood shifted dramatically. Marsh was called into emergency meetings. Monroe remained quiet, shaken. Sergeant Grant fielded calls from internal affairs and the media. A copy of the video played on every computer. Some officers watched with tight jaws, others with shame. The next morning, the state capitol buzzed with anticipation. Reporters lined the hallways outside room 312, where the Justice Reform panel was about to begin. Cameras adjusted, aides whispered updates, and all eyes were on the doors, waiting for the man whose name had dominated headlines for the last 18 hours. At exactly 10 a.m., the doors opened. Marcus walked in, composed, focused, wearing the same dark blue suit, the same leather portfolio in hand. The room fell silent. Everyone stood, not because protocol demanded it, but because respect did. The governor leaned forward. "Judge Taylor, we're honored to have you here." Marcus gave a small nod. "Thank you. I believe the timing speaks for itself." Before the session began, Marcus requested to address the room. "Yesterday morning," he began, "on my way to this very meeting, I was stopped, detained, and handcuffed by 2 officers of our own state police. There was no warrant, no probable cause, only suspicion based not on behavior, but on appearance." His voice carried weight. "This isn't just about me. I'm not the first person this has happened to, and unless we act, I won't be the last. Trust cannot exist without accountability. Dignity must not be optional." The agenda changed. What was meant to be a technical discussion became something far more urgent. Video clips played. Legal experts weighed in. Civil rights leaders joined the conversation. Then came the unexpected. An emergency hearing was called to review misconduct charges against Marsh and Monroe, and Judge Marcus Taylor was appointed to oversee the session as a neutral authority. 2 hours later, the session concluded. After reviewing evidence, witness accounts, body cam footage, and written reports, the panel reached a unanimous decision. Both officers had acted negligently, violated protocol, and failed to uphold basic human rights. They were suspended without pay pending further investigation. When Marcus read the final recommendation aloud, the room was still. Marsh sat motionless. Monroe nodded slowly. Later that evening, at a press conference, the governor stood beside Marcus. "Today wasn't about revenge," he said. "It was about responsibility. Judge Taylor showed the restraint and professionalism every public servant should strive for, but it shouldn't have been necessary." New legislation was announced: mandatory statewide training on de-escalation, racial bias recognition, and legal rights. An independent oversight committee would investigate future complaints against law enforcement. Marcus stepped to the microphone briefly. "What happened to me happens to people without cameras, without titles, without voices. This isn't just my story. It's a symptom of a deeper wound, but wounds can heal with sunlight, truth, and accountability." Within a week, departments across the state began auditing past arrests. Town halls formed. Legal clinics offered free counsel. Marcus's calm image became a symbol of justice done right. 3 months later, Marcus stood on the steps of the Ohio Law Enforcement Training Academy. A new class of recruits stood in formation before him. Fresh faces, clean uniforms, squared shoulders. This was the first graduating class trained under new bias awareness standards. He stepped to the podium. 3 months ago, he began, I stood on the other side of a badge. I was treated not as a judge, not even as a man, but as a threat based on a glance and a guess. That experience could have made me bitter. Instead, it made me more committed, to purpose. He paused, letting the words settle. You're not just here to enforce laws. You're here to protect dignity. That starts with how you see people, every person, not as a risk, not as a statistic, but as someone's father, sister, neighbor, or friend. After his speech, a young black recruit turned back. Thank you, sir. Marcus gave a small nod. Go serve with honor. As the sun dipped lower, Marcus remained on the steps for a few moments longer, not thinking about the past, the cuffs, the silence, the disbelief, but about what came next. Change doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes it comes quietly, in decisions, in voices, in classrooms, in steps taken one at a time. And in that quiet space, Marcus allowed himself to believe. Maybe, just maybe, justice was rising on a new kind of foundation, one built not on fear, but on fairness. Moral lesson. True justice begins not with power, but with perspective. How we see others determines how we treat them, and how we build a fairer world starts with seeing every person with dignity, not suspicion. If this story moved you, if it inspired you or made you think, don't let it end here.